What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Omnic Lab, episode 155. This week, we are going to be talking all about the new patch that just hit live, the Baptiste event, and Baptiste lore that we got all wrapped up in one. I'm your host, Rob May, all the way in a nice Thursday evening in Japan. Joining me as spry as can be over in Georgia, we have Andres Gomez all the way in Georgia in a Thursday morning. I'm trying to get all these time zones straight after a very hot week here in Japan. But Andres, how you doing?
Yeah, you feel like a time traveler when you're trying to keep up all these time zones together. It's like, where is he? In the future or in the past? I can't remember.
Trying to dodge shots and dodge time zones.
Yeah. It's a beautiful day here in Georgia. Ready to talk some Overwatch lore.
Yeah, this week we're going to be talking all about this, but before we get into everything, we have one gigantic announcement that we're going to be bringing for next week that I'm going to let Andres take it away on.
Yes. For those of you who like our show for strategy and like it for learning about new ways to play the game and listening to amazing players, that's what we have for you next week. We're bringing in the amazing ML7. If you guys are familiar with him, he is an incredible Ana player, also Baptiste player. He's a top 500 in the EU ladder, I believe. If you guys haven't had a chance to check out his stream, I highly encourage you to do so because he is actually an insane level player. That being said, we're going to have him on the show next week. I am super excited. Can't wait for it. And yeah, tune in next week.
Well, yeah, kind of next week, this week. Next week for your podcast feeds, but I think we're trying to put it into the afternoon block, early afternoon block for Saturday as of right now. And that is going to be on Americans East Coast early afternoon.
Yeah, we'll be tweeting out the exact times because we're still working out the schedule with him. He does live in Romania, which is another time zone we got to deal with over here.
Well, the good news is I won't be here to complicate the schedule, so it'll just be Andres hanging out with ML7, giving you guys a really sweet guide, but we'll be contributing on the back end to help you out.
Do know that the tentative date, it is Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern, so if everything goes well, tune in for the live streaming at that time, and if not, catch us on the podcast feed.
Absolutely. Without further ado, let's get into the other little series of announcements here. I'm going to bang these out real quick. We got Game Night coming up June 28th, the final Friday of every month that's going to be happening. I'm actually not sure if I'm going to make this one. I think I should be good for it, but we'll see how things pan out. It will be around the time that Overwatch League games are back in full swing again, so that will also complicate the start time and population density, I guess you could say. In addition, we are continuing our Patreon push to get you guys to just sign up for the $2.50 level or the platinum level of scientist role that you can get there on the Patreon so that you can get coaching. We are rolling out some more coaching this month. Andres has been on top of a lot more this month, which has been great. And I've been doing a little bit less, but I did refer some of mine over to Andres this month, and they've been following up with that. So if you guys are curious on scheduling there, just head up and do that. If you have any questions on this too, feel free to ping us or our mods and admin in the Discord too.
One quick little thing, and we mentioned it last episode, but I want to mention it again today for those of you who maybe didn't catch it. The coaching sessions usually happen live. I get a lot of questions from people who haven't done a coaching session, like, hey, how are we going to make this happen? How does it work? Basically, we join a Discord call. You guys share your screen with me, and then I'm able to see all of your gameplay, and I can advise you as we're going. We can have conversations after or during the games. it usually works really well for people who already have this setup. We have worked around that though for people who don't have that setup, people who have consoles or who are playing in a PC who maybe is not as powerful to be screen sharing at the same time that you're playing, and you're going to get a bunch of FPS drops and a bunch of other stuff. So for those people, we've done VOD reviews where they record their games for about 45 minutes, an hour, maybe 2 or 3. They put them up in a Google Drive, and then we go into a Discord call together, and I'll share my screen in this case, playing your VOD, and then we'll go through it the same way as we would do the other way around.
right.
So there's options. Don't feel that your setup is gonna drag you behind or you can't do it if you're in console or PC. We're pretty flexible with all that stuff and we're adaptable. So make sure that's not an excuse if you haven't sent in your reviews. I know a couple of people reached out to me this week. I've been a little bit busy, but I'll be getting back to you today, and hopefully we can schedule something for the future.
Absolutely. If you guys are looking for the full description of the show notes from this week, remember, just check out the link in your description for the podcast. You should be able to get a link to the show notes, and you can just jump in there and go check our Google Drive out. In addition, we are brought in large part by TopScore Solutions, an esport-oriented community for business and analytics. If you're wanting to develop an app or a service, a business, an organization, or just creating any kind of content around gaming or esports, they're here to help. They have a flagship podcast about esports and business. You can find them on their iTunes and Podbean. You can also find their website, topscoresolutions.com, to find any and all details, as well as a link to their Discord community to go hang out with them and ask them questions directly. Also, we have our good friend SwitchFox over at omnicmeta.com running out some new Overwatch League stats and continuing the process there for players as well. If you're checking out your stats and looking on what ways to improve, we got some questions this last week even about it. You can ask him directly in our Discord too. I think that's going to do it for our announcements as I'm re-looking through this for the third or fourth time. Let's jump into the news first and the event, and then we will get into the more spoilery territory with regards to talking about this 20-page essay that we got about Bap and his backstory. So, Andres, what is the skinny, or what is the update for the Baptiste challenge that's been running around for Reunion?
Right, we got some pretty cool lore attached to a challenge. This one reminds me of what is the cola, the diva? What's the name of that cola? The diva was
Nuka
Cola. Yeah, it reminds me of that event where you can play any game mode, quick play, competitive, or anything like that. As long as you play 9 and win. Actually, you have to win, because I actually played like 4
It's the same
yesterday.
with Bastet.
Yeah, I played 4 yesterday. I was so excited. It's like, yeah, I got 4 in. And then I realized, wait, I only won 2.
I only won one of those. Yeah.
So I still got to go back and finish it. That being said, I think it's a nice, easy way of introducing small pieces of lore. They're not introducing a new hero or anything like that. So I like it when we get those little reveals of, hey, this is kind of what's going on with the story. Baptiste turns out it's a really interesting character after reading that little short story. Like,
very dynamic backstory.
Yeah, I already liked his character and like his style and stuff, but definitely after reading the story, I like Baptiste even more. Like, his story is so cool, and they did such a great job, kind of like providing us details of that while also expanding kind of like the story of Overwatch. So I was super, super happy with that. The skin is not my favorite skin, although I know some people like it out there. But that being said,
I'm in the same camp. I don't like it.
I love this kind of events. Like, if Blizzard wants to keep putting this out every so often, I am totally cool with that. Especially because we've been so dry in the lore lately, right?
Yeah. Like, we haven't gotten a cinematic background thing since BlizzCon, and it's been way too long. So
I'm not gonna lie, I used to really look forward to those, and I thought they were gonna be like a more regular thing, because I guess they had a lot on the back burner when they released Overwatch. They were pretty consistent in their releases with those, and I'm pretty bummed that we haven't got another one of those, because I love those cinematics. I could watch and rewatch those all the time.
I will say, though, that on the kind of playing devil's advocate with how good the last one was, like, the quality that they have put out and that Pixar quality type stuff is just unreal. And on top of that, like when we got the Ash thing with Ash and McCree, they like dropped randomly like, oh yeah, by the way, Echo's a part of this, and like we're just like, what? And then like there's all of this other backstory that kind of came out with it, and um, I don't know. I felt like that one, in relationship to the other ones that we've gotten, has felt a little bit more polished and more full with other things that are like teased and mysteries and like really, really cool stuff that they included and high quality, like kind of like scene and blocking for the fights. I felt like it just overall not just polish, you know what I mean? It was kind of just like the whole arcing of the story and how it was written seemed much better than
I
the
agree
others.
with you, and so it's a give and take, I think, for them, right? Because I
Yeah.
think that with this format, the short story format, they were definitely able to explore the characters a lot more, and
Yeah.
they can let you know so much more in this format, right? Because they can go into to the heads of the characters, they can allude to certain things, they can be more detailed with things and point your attention to those things because it's in writing, right? It's harder to
Hmm.
do when you are doing a short or like a little film. That being said, what do you think of this format compared to the videos? You think it would have the same impact, or you think it would reach a smaller, more dedicated audience?
Are we talking like we're comparing what we got with this event with the videos?
Yeah.
Um, so I think that I'm a little bit more neutral on it because I feel like with when you're dealing with a company like Activision and Blizzard together, it feels more like I'm just kind of like sitting and waiting, and it doesn't matter. It's gonna feel long, whether it's like Blizzard long or like me feeling like it's long. So any news is good news type of a situation for me. Um, because I know that in general, when it comes to getting story from Blizzard, nothing really feels half baked, no matter how long you've waited on it. So whether it's in print or in comic book form or in like those live action style like animated comics or a super polished animated short or even more of like an in-game animation where they kind of just manipulate the in-game models and environments, those to me feel okay enough. The only one that really disappointed me honestly was the Havana one because there just wasn't a whole lot of substance there, and they did a lot of really cool stuff with animating the voices to match the in-game models really, really well with the English. But I didn't really realize that when they did that, they didn't do any sort of localization where they didn't reanimate it for any other languages. It was just the English version. So you lost out a lot on the value for the global impact there. So that felt even worse, I think, for me. But getting back to the question that Andres is pitching here, I think that the one thing that I got most with the takeaway is that they can explore a lot more ground with the written portions only, and they won't have fans hounding them for X needs to be a skin or so and so needs to be a hero because it's a little bit more ambiguous. You know what I mean? Like they introduced a lot of characters in this, relatively speaking, to like comparing it to a short, and then on top of that, they're able to like kind of let your imagination run a little bit by being vague in descriptions and stuff to kind of be like, oh, well, I wonder what this looks like, or I have a different image on how that worked out in that scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so yeah, definitely gives more room for the imagination. Unlike the shorts, would give you, very literal definitions of how everyone's supposed to look and what the
Right.
setting is. And I agree with you. I actually really enjoyed this format, and it made me realize how well a full-fledged novel for Overwatch would work, right? Like I would be super into that, especially if it's around the same writing style that this
Hmm.
one was made. Um, that being said, though, I do feel like Blizzard is a little bit afraid to commit because once they put the story out there, they can't really change it, right? Like once the lore is out there, it's almost like it becomes canon, right? That's kind of like the lore of Overwatch. And something makes me feel like they have been changing their story internally, and that's why we haven't gotten like a lot of new shorts or a lot of new stuff. In fact, we were supposed to get a graphic novel a comic book, a long comic book that was supposed to tell a bunch of the story in Overwatch, and we know that that got canceled close to the release date. And I believe
Yeah.
what they said was they wanted to revise some of the story, some of the characters. So it seems like they're coming up with the story as they go. They're sort of doing this like Game of Thrones style, where I think they gauge the response of the audience and they're building the story with the audience as they go through. So I don't know. It's it's cool because then we get a dynamic story that can evolve based on what we like. But then at the same time, it's like, we have to wait so long because maybe not everything is set in stone yet, right?
So let me throw you some speculation because I know that not just with that graphic novel, I think more recently with the Activision kind of seeming to take more of a strong arm in the company and each of the franchises, as well as kind of the big layoffs and like changing hands with a lot of the leadership in the games and all that. Some people have actually projected that there is something else in the works, that Blizzard is actually gearing up to expand the lore in a full-fledged adventure, meaning that they would make what's called quote unquote Overwatch 2 or Overwatch story or single player or something like that, where it's more of a setup where it's just player versus environment rather than players versus other players in the PvP and the whole competitive system and the Overwatch League and all of these things that they've kind of bounced around. They're like, well, what if we did this? If that is actually something that is in the works in some frame, whether that stays in the actual game as a new expansion, DLCs, whatever they do, or they make a brand new game franchise altogether that uses the same models, similar to like Heroes of the Storm using models from other stuff, would that make more sense as to why they're being a little bit more hush hush on the lore or giving us stuff like that?
You know, that could be a good point now that you mention it. They could be gearing up to just have a bunch of stuff ready and all this backstory kind of like written and ready to go so that, you know, because there has been rumors out there of Overwatch 2 and maybe it being more of a PvE game rather than a PvP style of game.
Right.
Which poses a ton of questions of how they would make that work. Are they going to be separate games? They're still going to be the same game, but then you have like two different modes, two like full-fledged modes, like, you know, your competitive and quick play PvP, and then you go on to your story missions, etc. Who knows? And it might be what it's happening, right? It might be what Blizzard is gearing out to do, and maybe they're saving a lot of their juiciest stories for that moment. But I don't know. I'm just happy we got all this lore over here with Baptiste. I'm glad that they did it in this format. I didn't think I was going to enjoy it so much, but I actually did. I was really enthralled with the short story. As soon as I started reading it, I couldn't stop from beginning to end. And the writing style was really good. I really enjoyed it. So without further ado, why don't we talk a little bit about the patch and the story itself?
Sure. Let's shift gears into the patch real quick then.
By the way, a little warning. Later on when we're talking about the story, we will be discussing some details that happen in it. So if you guys haven't read the story at all, I would recommend, if you don't want to get spoiled, to maybe pause this, read it, then come back.
We'll go through the patch stuff first, and then when we finish the patch, we'll give you another spoiler warning, and we'll get through it.
It's a good like 30 to 40 minute read if you are, you know, a decent reader. So, you know, take your time with it.
Sure. Just a quick rundown of the event. There are blocks at every third interval. At 3 wins, you get an icon. 6 wins, you get 2 sprays. And 9 games is the Combat Medic Baptiste Epic Skin. In addition, you can watch 2, 4, and 6 hours on participating Twitch streams in specific time spots that you can find on the website, and there is a link in the Google Drive of our show notes, as well as on the Play Overwatch website. There are basically a bunch of different kinds of skins, and I think they're all community artists that they've hired for this. That being said, the live patch also shipped out with the changes from the PTR of note. Baptiste is the first on the block, and I'll just kind of go every other so that Andres can talk about McCree. So Andres, break it down, Baptiste for us. What his change
you just
was?
assume I'm just gonna talk about McCree, huh?
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna monologue on this, so might as well.
Yeah, let's do it. So, ton of interesting stuff in this patch. They keep saying that they don't want to change any more of the balance, but they're changing a little bit of the balance here. Mainly with some pretty key heroes. Let's start with Baptiste. His heal ammo, not his regular ammo, so his right click is being increased to 12 up from 10. They're trying to even out his consistency a little bit so he doesn't have to reload as much. Just because he's dealing with two different like ammo cartridges, sometimes you can find yourself reloading a little bit too often. And I think they want to kind of even out those two so that you have about the same reload time for both. He is also getting an increase in his amplification matrix from 8 seconds to 10-second duration. So now his amplification matrix will linger on for a little bit longer. Moving on to D.Va. Defense matrix, and this one is huge, is being reduced from 15 meters to 10 meters. And I think this one is one of the more significant changes in this patch. You want to talk about this one a little bit, or you want to go through all of them and then come back?
This one is like all of these changes are going to be things that we've previously discussed a little bit longer at nauseum, but now they're kind of getting shipped into the game. We've had a chance to kind of jump into competitive with these rules with the bigger player base and actually having people test them. Console people can actually play on these and see how it works for them. But the amplification matrix reduction is actually quite a bit further than it was before because of some of the optimal ranges for D.Va to position within a lot of good compositions was perpendicular to your team in positions where you could safely matrix the crap out of somebody's abilities and cover a large frontal cone. And as you know, it's a cone, so like the further away you were from the max range is the largest space, so that's where you want to be. And with this, that means that actually you're going to have a larger area that you can eat stuff closer up, but that extra 5 meters is completely removed. So all in all, it's a really large nerf. And then there's some people complaining and also rejoicing that there is a big visual update to this, so that it's no longer like these couple squares of boxes. It's more of like a, I don't know. There's much more of a sheen, like sheer edging on the
it's like easier
thing.
to see.
Yeah, easier depending on if you're colorblind or not, and if there's too many lights on the screen with Moira trying to like spam you in the face with the coalescence. Like when there's more stuff going on, it's a little bit busier. But I'm curious if you working with those colorblind settings, how this works for you guys out there. So please let us know.
And I was gonna say, for a while, the defense matrix, like the color and the way that it looked, wasn't very intuitive, especially for newer players who haven't played the game before. It's kind of hard to tell that the matrix is there, especially if you're not the D.Va and not the person who's using it, and you're just getting into the game. You might not even be aware of what's going on, right? Like, why is my damage not going through? Turns out it's like a D.Va matrixing you from the right side. You might be in the middle of the matrix, you don't even notice, and you're just confused as to why this is happening. So I like the visual change a little bit. I know that my girlfriend struggled a little bit because she loves D.Va. That's her main character. But for a while, she didn't even know that the matrix was very useful, right? Just because it wasn't super intuitive for her what this thing was doing.
It's not very flashy either, you know, like it's a really rewarding ability if you're using it properly and you kind of like learning it. But like as a new player or somebody that's like kind of not using their abilities regularly, maybe the quick play warriors out there, it's just like, well, it's not really appealing because it's not like, there's not really a whole lot of feedback for you to go try it out.
Especially before that, you can even see when you ate like an ultimate on the kill feed. You would easily miss stuff like that before. So they definitely got a little better about making it known how impactful Matrix is and where it is. But that being said, like you said, Rob, this is a huge change based on D.Va positioning. Like, no longer can you be at a relatively safe distance and just matrix at your teammates, or if the enemy soldier 76 is using his ultimate, you can just like put the matrix in his head basically and cover him completely so nothing comes out. This stuff is gonna change a little bit. You're gonna have to be a little bit more picky where you position yourself. You're gonna have to be a little bit closer to where you want to actually have the Matrix be effective, effectively reducing the range that she can kind of like linger around. Right? You either have to
The
be.
other,
Oh, go ahead.
sorry. The other thing that I was going to mention that I totally forgot about was the fact that when you're working in 3D space and everyone's working on high ground, Diva is a lot of time like is going to sit at like a kind of an angle of her team and kind of shoot the Matrix back,
Yeah.
and like you're just not going to reach him anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Being able to take high ground positions and kind of be a little bit safe where your mech is not getting damaged and just matrix. Because when there's a diva in a mech around and she has matrix, that's the first thing people are trying to get rid of, right? Like get the diva out of the
Yeah.
mech and then we're free to just do any abilities that
Do
we want
whatever.
to, right? So the threat of your abilities getting eaten slightly reduced. The range at which she can position either in high ground or behind her team or on the sides has been reduced. And the range at which she can be at a safe distance from the enemy and still have the matrix be useful has also been reduced a little bit. So tons of changes over here. I think Diva playstyle is going to change a little bit. She's already, it's especially at top tier level, she's already being a hero that is being left a little bit behind. I think that a lot of teams have been preferring the Sombra in that position, for example. So she's already kind of not being as desirable meta-wise. And now with these changes, I think that she's definitely going to come back down in line a little bit and not be that all-star must pick in every situation kind of hero. She's definitely getting a tone down here.
All right, Andres, it's time to talk dirty to your McCree mains. We've got the primary fire recovery reduction down from half a second, 0.5 to 0.42. And this matters because it matters for every shot in the Peacekeeper. That means the overall clip time goes up. You can click heads that much faster. And also, I got word from Shockmaster today. I'm going to pull this up. In our Overwatch chatter, he was saying that after using a fighting against an enemy Zarya, the buff will allow his shots to be more efficient to break the Zarya bubble in order to deal damage to her, whereas before it would take a second and a half to kill the bubble, and the fourth shot would be at 2 seconds, which is the time of her bubble. So now you could take 1.26 seconds to kill the bubble, and on the fourth shot is about 1.68 seconds. This is assuming you take no damage in the fall off range because each shot does 70 damage. So by your fourth round, you can actually clip through the entirety of this barrier by yourself over the course of that duration.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting change. I think that a lot of people are super excited about this and are like, oh, McCree's insane. He's going to get run pretty much everywhere. I'm a little bit less optimistic. I think that this change is really good for him, and we're definitely going to see a little bit more of McCree. In fact, a lot of the games that I've been playing are like have at least one McCree in it for a little bit. Here's the thing about McCree, though. He is still a hero that needs babysitting. It's not a hero that you can just run in any composition. I guess if you're just insane at the hero so much that you just click every head out there, then yeah, you can get away with running him in different compositions. But that being said, McCree's in mobile. He doesn't have any verticality, and he's a rather slow hero compared to a lot of the other heroes that we have. So all of the help or the stuff that you bring into your team comes from that Peacekeeper. If you're getting shots and you're getting those headshots, great. The problem comes down is when you can't get those shots in, right? He has almost no way of bypassing shields. He's very poor at flanking. So if you're like in a composition like Bunker, I think he'll work out pretty well. People that can help you break that shield, people that will keep you alive. You can hang out with them. They're not going to leave you behind. But if we're going into the most popular DPS composition right now with Hammond, right? You're bringing out a Hammond, you bring him a bunch of mobile DPS. I still don't think he's going to fit very well into those type of compositions, which is kind of what is getting played right now. Maybe we'll see more Bunker with McCree. Maybe we'll see more protect the president while he'll be your main source of DPS. Um, but that being said, I think this was more of a change to bring him back in line with some of the other DPS, right? Because he's been struggling for a little bit, where he's not a bad hero, and if you know how to use it, you can get a lot of juice out of him. But it's hard to get that juice once the enemy team is playing certain things, right?
Yeah, McCree also still feels like an answer to a problem rather than a threat to be produced, if that makes sense. Like, McCree is not something you drop into the game to present a threat. Usually, McCree is an answer to a problem. Like, Genji's always getting in your back line. Well, you have a couple options, and McCree is one of them. You know what I mean? Like, Brigitte's there for the supports. You've got McCree for the DPS. You've got Roadhog and D.Va for the, and even Winston to a certain degree. It's for tanks. However, I will say that it would be pretty interesting with regards to how these nerfs and buffs have kind of lined up if McCree could kind of bring back a Death Ball comp with a Hog and a Reinhardt, or a Hog and a Winston, even just like kind of a little bit more of a mobile unit of protection. Usually speaking, though, like traditional Death Ball way back when was kind of like Hog, Kree, Lucio, and Reinhardt. Those are kind of like your big cores, and then you can kind of maneuver the other DPS and support accordingly.
Yeah.
That being said, the other thing about McCree is that the things that he solves right now aren't really that common, and if they are, like, everything in McCree's kit requires or it asks a lot of the player to do it. Similar to like Genji and Tracer. Like, if you are having a really big success on these heroes, it's because your mastery is much better than people at your rank traditionally.
Yeah, I was gonna say McCree's still going to be very effective on the ladder. If you're a main McCree, I think that you're still gonna find success. You can still, find your niche there. But as far as like solving problems, right? Like, McCree is an offensive machine where it's just like shooting everywhere. If you leave him alone, he can cause a lot of damage. So you can't really just leave him ignored for most of the battle. But even things like, you have a Tracer or a Doomfist that is kind of messing with your backline, he is still pretty good at dealing with that. But I think there's even better heroes at dealing with that sort of nuisance, right? Even
Sure.
Ana, which is like the main target for a lot of these heroes, has better tools to deal with them. And then if you go to now one of the all-star DPSs that we have, Sombra, she might not have the same power capacity as McCree to just outright kill people, but she's much better at neutralizing all of these threats, right? You can hack Tracer, you can hack Doomfist, you can hack Hammond, then you can EMP the entire enemy team. She has vertical mobility. She gets jumped. She just, relocates, and she's good again. And that is what McCree doesn't have, right? If he gets jumped, you better pray that your team is there helping you, or that you get like 5 headshots in a row and you kill them before they kill you.
And
right?
you have your flashbang.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say that, like, you're going to be seeing tons and tons and tons of McCree and tons of McCree highlight reels, because at the top level of play, these guys and girls that are playing out there are like very aware that this character needs a little bit of babysitting, and if you can kind of just put that little extra ounce into his back pocket to kind of help him out, he's just going to go nuts. So that's why you're going to see it a little bit higher on the top level streams.
And especially with the D.Va change, like, that opens up room for him too. So, like,
Sure.
double buff for McCree here.
So I'm just going to run through these other couple ones that we've already talked ad nauseum, which is the Orisa barriers. Just as a reminder, you will be able to use them while reloading, and if you are running out of ammo, it's probably a good idea to start the reload and barrier up around the same time. If you haven't been trying to learn this already, you should. The other thing is the Symmetra teleporter interact range was increased from 1 meter to 1.5 meters to kind of help out with some of the weird feels for that. Torbjorn's secondary fire damage is down from 12.5 to 10.5. So overall, if you take a full shotgun blast to the body, instead of 125, it's going to be 105. This also helps with the modifiers for getting shotgun blasted to the head, being a bit too high in the damage category when you are using your overload ability. In addition, this is the assault changes patch. So if you guys are playing Numbani, or not Numbani, I'm sorry. I believe this is 2CP only, not hybrid maps. So this will be your Anubis. This will be, shoot, I just mind blanked on all of them. But yeah, your Anubis, your Volskaya Industries,
Hanamura,
those type of maps, Hanamura, these
Eichenwald,
2CP maps.
Paris.
Eichenwald's still hybrid. Paris,
yeah.
So if you're doing these maps, keep in mind you're not going to get 4 minutes for capping anymore. You're going to get 3. So you're losing a minute, and then towards the end, if the enemy team is dying quickly, they won't have the ramping up increased time for their deaths. If you're capping the point, they just instantly get reduced to the 3.5 max, and they can get back up in time. So staggering becomes less effective on these points, and you should just cap and get ready to plan and your attacks.
And I think for this change, it's going to take a minute for everyone to get used to it, because I'm pretty sure that I played an assault map recently, and I didn't even feel this, right? And it might have been because of the way that the point got captured. Maybe I think they wiped us all on point A, so there was no like contesting or anything like that. But it's definitely a change that I'm not thinking about like all the time, right? I'm still gonna have to get used to, like, I'm defending point A in this assault map. It's okay if I linger and try to stall the clock for a little bit longer, right? Like, I won't screw my team over if I do this. I have conditioned myself to be so
Getting
conservative.
your clock time actually does matter now. So you can stall a bit.
It's actually, I think, more beneficial to do the stall if you're able to. And you still have to keep in mind, like, ultimate economy and all those other things. Like, you don't want to blow your ultimate while you know the point is, like, lost. But it is a little bit more, like, control, where getting that little bit of extra percentage before you die is worth it, right? Because you're going to be back on the next fight regardless, which was the huge problem before. If you get killed right before they capture the point, and then the enemy team just rushed point B, there's a big chance that, one, you would not be in position, or two, you'd be in a terrible place for the team. You might not have your abilities ready. You might not be with the people you need to be helping out. And then there you go. Snowball into the map. You're lost. Get out of here.
Yeah, beforehand it was like the double whammy, because you're getting this gigantic amount of time that kind of nullifies getting a couple extra seconds at all on that first point when they cap it. At least on point A in the first round. And the second was also true, which is you get stalled and your spawn timer is increased at that point. So you dying basically means the enemy team can just cap, double cap, and game over, round over, depending on the context. But now, I don't think that your deaths are going to be as worthwhile for stalling like they would be on a 2CP to kind of get it up to that 80-90 percentile before flipping or dropping the point, for example. But with this game style, I think that if you're kind of caught with your pants down and you lose one or two early, you can kind of start the rotation of getting people in and out, and getting picked off and stalling slowly, instead of like running from spawn to go contest. Rather than doing that, it would be more of like, hey, there's like 2 or 3 people still caught there. We can probably continue this stall for a bit longer and maybe get a whole minute.
Right.
It's a little bit of a different feel.
And as a team, you can do it too, which I think is one of the biggest things. I think that as a team, a lot of people would let go of point A if the enemy team already had like 2 ticks. And even though maybe they could contest and get it, it's just so dangerous, because if your whole team gets wiped right before they capture, then it's basically a loss, how it used to be, right? But now, not really, right? Like, now you can really make that last attempt at salvaging the point and just be like, guys, I'm going in. Let's go in with May ultimate. Let's try it out and do that last minute like attempt. And if you fail it and you die, your whole team will be back even before they're like halfway, because it's only like a 3-second spawn or something like that. Now
3.5 second, yeah.
3.5 seconds. So definitely doing that last stand for point A in those 2CP maps, it's definitely worth it now.
Yeah, I really like this change a lot. I know we mentioned this beforehand, but just like having a lot of this here felt really good to kind of promote defending point A, because a lot of times people are just like, well, it's always attacker focused and point A is going to be capped and whatnot. But like the fact that my games are going to last 10,000 years on 2 points of a really small map is music to my ears, and hopefully this will actually work where the total running time of my games isn't going to go past, a 4-3 score into those 6-8 games on a double cap, or a 6-7 games, or even 7-8 games. Like those are just crazy to watch. Like those GM games get up there too. So anyways, the last thing here is that there was a bug that we found over the course of the last couple weeks that I'm not sure if we mentioned last episode, where Brigitte's armor was actually still bugged to be the previous set while rallying. So the damage mitigation was outrageous and still getting applied over top of the original thing. And then there was also something where the reduction was actually higher. It was like the old version of how armor was applied. But that has been fixed for this patch. Both of those things have been fixed for this patch.
Usually I don't mind, we don't mention bugs as much, but this one is a really interesting one, because this bug was discovered thanks to the workshop. So the workshop already bringing in some help, even for the developers. I think it was Darwin Streams, which is one of the guys, has been very dedicated to building stuff in the workshop. He actually has a really cool stream. If you're into building modes, I definitely recommend checking him out, because he's not only very knowledgeable about the workshop already, he's coming up with all these crazy modes. And in one of those experiments, he put damage indicators. So every time you would hit heroes, a damage number would come up. And while hitting Brigitte while she was rallying, he discovered that the mitigation was much higher than it should have been. With Soldier 76, normally you hit them for about, I think it's 21 damage or 20 damage per bullet.
After initial armor.
Before armor, like his regular hit. When you're hitting armor, it should hit for about 17 damage. But it turns out that when he was hitting Brigitte, when she was using rally, he was hitting for like 14 damage, having an insane reduction of up to like 40%, which might explain why it always felt so hard to kill Brigitte while she was rallying. She's not only constantly gaining armor, but she has a permanent 40% damage reduction for as long as the ultimate is working out. That is,
and this is applying to teammates.
That is almost half the damage getting mitigated. It's absurd. So really interesting little bug. Really cool that it was discovered with the workshop, and also really cool that Blizzard addressed it so far. It seems like they're listening and they're looking at it. They didn't make a big fuzz about this one, but it did get patched pretty fast. And I think
it was nice that they found it and then like applied it to the patch that they were already planning to run out, and then put it on consoles like the same time. So I really, really like that. But not all of these kind of changes are going to hit that quickly.
No, this one in particular did. Maybe it was an easy fix on their side. Maybe they hadn't had a chance to notice, because honestly, it's a pretty sneaky bug. Unless you're watching the damage numbers and stuff very closely, it might just go under the radar, right?
And I think it was also kind of on like an off week before Overwatch League kicked in for Season 3, right?
I think so.
Because Season 3, or sorry, not Season 3. Stage 2, they were using the previous rules for armor, from what I understand.
You know what would be really hilarious? If after this patch, Goats becomes not that good and Brigitte goes to the wayside. It would be hilarious if the reason why Goats was so overpowered was because of this little bug over here.
Could be.
This is definitely toning Brigitte down in one way or another. So it's going to be interesting how things react, right? Because D.Va is getting a little bit nerfed, so she's not as desirable. Brigitte is getting like this little nerf, so her ultimate is less effective. So they just keep chipping away at that composition, but it's like Highlander, the Immortal, dude. It never dies.
Yeah, and on top of this, I don't know if you guys noticed this in the bug fixes section, but I just added this too. But was apparently a line of sight bug where Brigitte's rally was still getting granted to allies through enemy barriers. So if you're standing on one side of a Symmetra wall ultimate, a a bubble barrier from Winston, a curved protective barrier from Marissa, or even a giant square man Reinhardt, you would still be getting your buff. And now no longer you're getting rally bonuses through enemy barriers, which is a godsend, to be honest, again, to make sure that you can actually benefit from using your barriers properly in a matchup against Brigitte. That's pretty big.
This is a really cool change, and it's actually one of those changes that increases the skill ceiling, right? If you're a hero that has a barrier, now you can watch out for a rally, and you can isolate certain members from that rally. For example, if there's a Graviton and the Brigitte in the middle is rallying as Reinhardt, sometimes you can kind of like put your shield in between her and the rest of their team and kind of like separate them
cut
like
them
that.
off.
Yeah. Or if the enemy team is rallying and kind of rushing towards you, you can cut her off a little bit and maybe focus down the Reinhardt. Easier said than done. But that being said, it's something that you can watch out for. And definitely with Winston Bubble, for example, Brigitte is like rallying. You can just jump on her, put her bubble. Everyone who's outside of that bubble ain't getting that ultimate.
If you guys are also big fans of Fitzy, I know that he had a couple fun clips that have been floating around on Twitter of him pog champing on the new change to Roadhog hooks bug. Now actually getting to break when hacked, because before you could get hacked in the middle of the hook and it would still apply the pull animation. Now, if you're hacking the Roadhog during the animation of the hook landing, by the end of the delay of the hook landing, if Roadhog was hooked or hooked somebody else, then the hook breaks and returns to him and doesn't hook the player. And it's been a notable bug for a long time, and they finally fixed it, and it's really, really good. So this is another thing to kind of look at. Is Clockwork Vendetta comp coming to Overwatch League? Is Sombra going to be continually oppressive in the meta? Is Sombra going to be good enough to kind of deal with that in the future? This is kind of a step in that direction, maybe even preemptively, to adjust the meta. Last up, and certainly not least, but for all of our good friends on the consoles of Xbox and PlayStation 4, there is a large mega issue. I'm sure you're more aware of it than we are, but with regards to Aim Assist and Baptiste's Immortality Field, you're probably wondering, I can't shoot the god dang thing at all. It's probably because your Aim Assist is dragging your cursor and your crosshairs all the way over to players rather than the Immortality Field. It is a known bug, and they have been getting hounded on the forums about this, and they have confirmed that it will be coming with 1.38. The patch that we just received was 1.37, so we'll be getting that, as well as Hammond has been disabled for Xbox because apparently it's been crashing games when you're using Hammond Ultimate and another Ultimate at the same time. So I'm not sure why this is. This has been disabled in all modes, to my knowledge. But this should be a hot fixed issue within the week, from what the Blizzard CS Twitter feed has been saying.
Yeah, hopefully your Xbox and PlayStation brethren out there can get a little help.
Yeah, go abuse your Baptiste while you still can.
There you go. All right.
This is spoiler territory.
You want to talk about lore for a little bit? We don't have a lot of time, but we can mention at least some of the cool characters and stuff that was introduced in the story.
Yes, so we'll be talking about the lore chat for the reunion with Baptiste lore. The quick again, we're going to be spoiling, so pause your iPad, pause your phone, unplug your headphones, run for the hills, because right now we're going to be talking about the lore. If you haven't read it yet, it's a quick 20-page read. If you got a chance to, please go do that. Think I've given you app time to pause your apps out there, but here are the three main characters in this. First, we have Baptiste. Then we have Mauga, depending on how you want to say that.
Or Mauga? Yeah,
and he is a Samoan. And I'm trying to say it properly. My pronunciation will be bad, but I'm going to pronounce it as Nguyen. So it's kind of like an N and a G together, I think.
I don't know why I was reading it
Vietnamese.
like Nguyen.
Yeah, I did that in my head, and I probably still do, but it's read as Gwen.
Gwen. Okay.
Gwen. more of a
Gwen.
lower using Gwen. So, anyways, Gwen is a very sharply attired gentleman from Vietnam. And then we also have characters such as Dr. Rosaline Mondesir and Captain Cuerva. Also, we have a last character here is Ferdinand Saint Clair. And I believe these are kind of like more French-rooted names from what I gather. But my French pronunciation is horrible. And if our good friend of the show from France, Patrick Beja, is listening to this, I'm sorry.
We're gonna butcher some French in this episode. Get ready.
We go and butcher French. I'm sure he's used to it by now, being friends with Scott, making fun of his French accent all the time. So here's a quick thing. I'll run a couple of these by Andres and see what he has to say about it. But first and foremost, Augustine, Jean-Baptiste, and Rosaline had been orphaned and actually attended the same orphanage in Port-de-Paix, Haiti, together. Baptiste joined the Caribbean Coalition, which I believe is some kind of like strike force for protection. And then he realized that he wasn't making enough money to kind of make ends meet and keep his friends and family safe, or family being the orphanage. So he joined Talon to make money and ended up going through the ranks and becoming a lieutenant there. After a mission went south in Monte Cristi, he went on the run, and that's where he's at now in the beginning of the story. Rosaline Mondesir, it turned out to finally become a doctor, similar to Baptiste becoming a medic, combat medic, and they grew up in the same orphanage. Anders, what are your thoughts here on these two characters so far?
So far, it seems like they spent a lot of time, coming up with these characters and their backstories. I think they did a really good job with Baptiste. I really like how Baptiste, rather than being a polar opposite from some of the other heroes, where you're either a really good character, like for example Winston, right? Winston is such a pure character who just embodies science and what the ideal scientist should be like, and what you should strive for. Or then you have Reaper, right? Which is just that straight up evil character that wants Overwatch to burn down. He doesn't have regards for other people, straight up evil, right? And then you have Baptiste, which is very morally gray, right? He's leaning on both sides a little bit. And I really love the way that they introduce the character into this world where he grew up in Haiti, in a place where there was still a lot of, violence. There was still a lot of conflict going on there. And in the story, it mentions how he grew up looking up to Overwatch, right? He would get to see all the Overwatch posters, and everyone was like, oh, these are the heroes that are going to come save us. But then they also mention in the story that he has soured a little bit on the idea of Overwatch, because as he kept growing up in Haiti, he realized that Overwatch to them was only an idea, right? Overwatch never really came to Haiti, so they never had the opportunity to help there. And he realized, I can't just keep looking up to these guys and pretending like the poster is going to solve everything. I have to take matters into my own hands and change
especially
the problems
when Overwatch
myself.
shut down.
Yeah, and then Overwatch shuts down, and that's an even bigger blow, right? Like, all these heroes
Right.
that I looked up to, they actually never came and helped all these people that need help. And he kind of took it into his own hands, right? That's why he ends up joining the coalition. That's why he ends up joining Talon later. He was trying to find the place where he could make a difference, right? Where he could help the people that he grew up with and that he knew needed the help. So he's a little bit soured on Overwatch. And of course, even though his intentions are very pure and he is all for the people, he loves helping the people in Haiti. He loves medicine and being a doctor. And in the story, it says that that's where he feels like he's in his natural habitat, right? He feels right at home when he's helping people. But that being said, he did get linked up with the wrong people. He did get linked up with Talon. And in the story, they're very clear that once you join Talon, the only way you're leaving is in a coffin. There's no, hey guys, good working for you. I'm gonna go work for something else. No, you're staying.
It's kind of the it's the whole we don't talk about Fight Club type thing.
Yeah,
Like, you're not making it out of here. I'm glad you brought up the morally gray thing, Andres, because like I've been playing a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. A lot of friends have been talking to me about it, and they have this system for how they describe alignment, which is kind of like their moral compass of a character.
Mhm.
And they're kind of in, basically they have 6 modifiers, and they make a bunch of different variations. So you have basically good, neutral, and evil, and then you have kind of a true neutral, and then you have chaos and
Lawful,
and
right?
lawful, yeah, lawful and chaotic. So what they do is they kind of put these modifiers together. So you have chaotic neutral and lawful neutral and true neutral, and then you have chaotic good, true good, like neutral good, and then
Lawful good.
the lawful good, and then you have the same thing applying to evil. And so it's really interesting how they've been describing this, because they've been doing all these cool things. And so like what you would say is kind of like chaotic good is kind of like the ends will justify the means. They want to do good things, but it's not like the ethics of the situation can kind of be up in jeopardy.
Yeah, they can be shifting with
And-
their morals a little bit depending on the outcome.
Right. And then the neutral side would be more of like, well, they can see value in more of the chaotic side, as well as more some value in the neutral and the lawful side, and going through the structure, the politics of the situation, the bureaucracy, all that jazz. And then the kind of lawful good would be more of like your kind of your paladins, your Reinhardts, like the
Reinhardt, yeah.
justice, honor, glory, Reinhardt.
All
you know?
about morals. You'd never betray them. You stick
Yeah,
to them,
exactly.
even if it's to your detriment, right?
And it kind of sticks with systems. It's very systematic.
Yeah,
And it's really interesting how they play this up with the evil side too, because then you have like organizations like Talon. Talon would kind of be in this lawful evil category. Like it's evil, it's objectively bad, but in that system of evil, it is innately a system. Like they're very organized, they're very structured, everything is going to go according to plan. There's a hierarchy that needs to be respected and abided by. It's not chaos and anarchy. So chaos and anarchy would be more of the chaotic evil side. That would be more of more or less Blackwatch, I guess you could say, because Blackwatch, when it went rogue before they joined Talon, that would be more of the anarchy or the chaotic good, and when they were associated with Overwatch.
yeah, and I like that you mentioned that, because they give us another character in this story, Maga, and Maga is actually kind of similar to Baptiste, but he's like the other side of the mirror, right?
Right.
If Baptiste is a good guy that sometimes leans on some bad stuff, just so he can he can do his goals, which
Chaotic good, to use the example.
at the end, his goals are good and he wants to help people, but he's delved into some evil things in order to make that happen. We have Maga, which is kind of the opposite. He is more of an evil guy. He enjoys, being a savage killer and, being in the war zone. But at the same time, he's not all that bad, right? Like in this story, it still shows that he has a very friendly side. He's easygoing. He's very fast talking, sociable. He's very witty. And he cares about Baptiste, right? In one way or another, he's made friends with him. They're really good friends, actually, and each other kind of like pull themselves into the other side, right? Like Maga almost brings Baptiste a little bit into his evil side, where when they're both in the battle, Baptiste sometimes says that he gets lost, and he actually finds himself sort of enjoying this chaos, right? He also feels at home with Maga, even when violence is what they're doing, right? And then,
Yeah, it's almost like because they have the good and the bad side of the coin, but then in the chaos and working together is where kind of
they meet each other.
the fingers kind of meet together and fold.
Yeah, and Baptiste brings Maga back into a good realm as well, right? When Maga is in full rage and just wants to go full savage killer on people, The story says Baptiste is the only one who has been able to calm him down and bring him back into more of a human and I'm blanking out on the word here. More compassionate, I guess.
It would be more of maybe not compassionate. I feel like it's more of like a settled and kind of like cognizant, like he's actually thinking through the situation rather than enjoying it.
Right.
In addition, we also have a really cool character. Honestly, I found that Gwen I really liked a lot because he's kind of a similar version of like an evil version of kind of what I would like in a character. He's very quick-witted. He doesn't like to get his hands dirty. He's always prim and proper. He likes to get things done, get in and get out, like a finely executed syringe or a scalpel of a task. And he's also very quick-witted. When he does fight, it's always efficient and accurate. He is very insightful and analytical. He's described as the analyst for this particular task force. But he's also shrouded in a lot of mystery. We don't know a whole lot about him other than his talent, touch, and task force links with Baptiste and Maga. So Gwen could be pretty interesting leading into this. And around the time when you read through the flashbacks for the previous event that Baptiste ended up going rogue on, they had a captain in charge of that task force named Captain Cuerva. And
Cuerva.
I'm not sure if this is Spanish, but it seems like it could be.
It sounds Spanish. Well, Cuervo means crow in Spanish. Cuerva is more of a last name, I think.
Okay. And that would fit this because they're talking about kind of going on a mission. And the mission is, quote, this. The Playa Cartel have been encroaching on the Talon territory. Our mission is to find and eliminate the leader, Daniel Fernandez. Intelligence has located their safe house, and they're going to move in, extract him, and get out. End quote. However, things went awry. Fernandez disappeared, and they started executing civilians with heavy artillery and airships.
Yeah, they couldn't find the guy in his house, so instead they went to the closest town where he resides, and they basically started going from house to house. They pulled out an airstrike. They basically demolished the city. A ton of civilians were killed, and a lot of really evil stuff kind of showcased themselves here, right? And I think this is when Baptiste really drew the line, where he was already doubting Talon a little bit before this, where it didn't feel right to him. But after this mission, it was clear cut for him that he had gone too far, right? Even if he has delved a little bit into this path, and sometimes he does feel at home with Maga, this mission was the defining factor because he saw the true evil side of Talon, no regard for civilians, the people that he set out to protect, right? Now, it was not only about this one guy, Sinclair, who's been kind of like messing with the whole healthcare reform and jacking up the prices. He was a clear evil guy, and Baptiste had no problem disposing of that guy, right? Because he would help everyone else. But then he realized that Talon was just killing the people he was trying to help. They were looting, so they were not only murderers, but they were also thieves. And that's where he said, I can't do this anymore. I'm out of here. Peace. And he escapes. For a while, he is able to be undercover, but eventually his past catches up to him, and that's when Maga and Gwen get introduced, right? They find him at a bar in Haiti after he's been helping in the local clinic.
Shift.
Yeah. And kind of like things come crashing down, right? Baptiste realizes that he can't really escape this life forever, and that if he chooses to do, he's putting in danger a lot of people that he cares for, right?
It's really interesting too because Maga in passing mentions they make fun of him for his shirt, his crazy Hawaiian style like tourist shirt. And what he says is he's got to get outside of HQ sometimes, and they mention that he's never at HQ, and he's like, well, I need to get away from Rome. And you're like, well, okay, so now we just had a big lore drop, whether you realize it or not, but Talon HQ is located in Rome, Italy. We figured that out. That's a big news piece for us.
Absolutely.
We kind of got some hints with the not the Rialto map drop, but when or was it Rialto? Yeah, maybe it was when they dropped the Rialto map, the whole thing where you're trying to do the extraction with the
Rialto
retribution event.
is where they kill the guy, and Blackwatch
Hmm.
basically gets outed for the first time. Yeah.
Right. So like we got a little bit of hints there that Rome could have been a hub or a central hub somewhere for Talon forces, but we weren't sure if the like headquarters was. And then in addition to that, kind of along the line in the flashbacks, Maga also mentions the possible other locations where Talon crossed the line. And so this even shows that Maga has a bit more of an understanding of when Talon does something that's wrong. So it's almost like Maga's able to recognize when something's gone bad or
He just
when
doesn't
something's too
care.
far,
Yeah.
but he doesn't operate in the axis and those
He
locations.
doesn't have that moral compass that Baptiste has, right? He doesn't feel bad.
Exactly.
He understands that it's evil, right? But he embraces it, right? He knows that that's his nature, and that's where he enjoys being.
So yeah, we have more than just Monte Cristi where Talon took over and annihilated forces. We have Makati and Singapore as being other locations of Talon attack. And then we kind of get into the present event here, which is the problem of Fernand Sinclair, who is a corrupt medicinal owner of Sinclair Pharmaceuticals Company and basically operates a monopoly, charges people way too much money, including Talon. And so Talon is coming to take him out on this. But it also happens that it's inconveniencing Dr. Rosaline Mondesir and Augustine Jean Baptiste's hospital that he's working at. So it's kind of a gray area for him because he knows this guy's also evil, but in a different way. It's also affecting Talon, and Talon wants to get rid of him. But the interesting thing is that Sinclair, or Sinclair, or how you say this, previously worked for Overwatch. So we have a prior Overwatch character that shows up and also gets spared long term. Again, spoilers again, but like he was Overwatch, got disenfranchised with it because he wasn't like a main force operative. He was more of like a desk job, file task force type thing, like setting up things in the back end at the office, and ended up just like, hey, I started working pharmaceuticals and started pairing up intelligence with Talon, and look where I am now. So that was pretty interesting.
And there's another point where I like the characters that are being introduced over here. They're a little bit more complex in like their motives, right? Like now,
Yeah,
we're getting a clue that Overwatch might have had people working for them that were in that morally gray scale, right? Like
yeah.
this guy has worked for them, then he went to Talon, and then he's trying to go on his own, probably to make a ton of money in the pharmaceutical industry, and he's kind of screwing everyone over by jacking up the prices and being, super selfish in that sense. But then again, we have this character that's been part of both teams again. And I kind of like this direction that Overwatch is taking, a little bit more complex characters, a little bit less defined. And don't get me wrong, I like having the polar opposites. I like that there's a Winston and a Reaper. I like that there's a Reinhardt that embodies all those morals and stuff. But then I'm also really enjoying that in between we have all these other characters, right? Like Baptiste or Sombra, right? That is like so up in the air, like whether they're good or bad, right?
Yeah, like even Reaper has his own thing that's been going on, like that we haven't really explored. You know what I mean? Like even the characters like that are in that full evil scale, like I feel like they're trying to do what most anything that does in entertainment. They try to humanize the villain. They try to make the villains not look as bad. Like you still see the evil in them and you know what they're doing is wrong, but you can at least empathize with their current position and realize that they are in fact human too.
Yeah, like Doomfist, for example. He kind of reminds me
Right.
of Thanos a little bit, and not just because of
Yeah.
the gauntlet. But they do have like that moral ambiguity, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
they're doing a really evil thing, but their final purpose is not necessarily evil driven, right? They don't just want to watch everyone burn down. In the case of Thanos, he wants to bring balance to the universe. In the case of Doomfist, he wants society to grow stronger, and he believes that the only way for that to happen is to get rid of the weak, right?
evolve.
Which is a little bit harsh, but it's not like the goal is not necessarily like downright I want the destruction of everything, but they want to elevate the reality into something that they believe is better, right?
Yeah. So to finish up here, we have the last thing that I've put down for our lore pieces is that Baptiste met Mercy in a clinic at a humanitarian aid site in Venezuela. So apparently our good friend and yours, Angela Ziegler, has been maneuvering quite a bit in and out of her Overwatch suit of armor to go help people across the globe, and is well known by Baptiste in that respect. And he even remembered, he's like, oh yeah, I guess that must have been her, because he didn't connect the dots of Mercy and as her alias, I guess you could say, or her public figure, and her real name. So there's a little bit more context that's kind of provided, like the Overwatch names and the code names that are being used are similar to hero names, where I'm sure they're probably not hiding their identities, but that is a possibility for some of them. And others that maybe aren't hiding their identities are not really readily known to the general public because they just use the code name or the alias in that case. And the big drop at the very end, the very final line, was that Bap calls a favor in on his cell phone to an encrypted phone app as a direct line to Sombra. And this was the most hype part of the entire
That was
piece.
pretty cool, actually. And what I want to know is, how do these people have Sombra's number? It seems to me like Sombra's number would be nowhere to be found. She would just hack it out of everywhere.
I think that would be more of if Sombra wanted to get to find you, but if you want to contact her, she probably has her special app. You know what I mean?
You gotta go on the dark web or something.
The dark web.
Type a code.
Oh my gosh.
She'll contact you.
So my question is he asking Sombra in a colloquial sense of asking a friend for a favor? And if that's true, are they legitimately friends, or are they using each other for information? And second, is he calling in a favor as being, hey, can I ask you a favor because somehow she owes Baptiste a favor?
It may be. I mean, Baptiste might have saved her life at one point, right? He's a combat medic.
It's very possible.
They both work for Talon. And they're both characters that have their own agendas, right? They both joined Talon because they wanted something accomplished for themselves, right? We don't know exactly what Sombra is looking, but we do know from the cinematics and some of the stuff that we got before that she's using Talon for her own means. Like she's doing the job that they need, but mostly because she wants to be kind of like in the middle of all that and have access to all of that. Baptiste is joining Talon because he wanted to find a group where he could make a difference, right? And he's in that search, but they're both realizing that they're not fully committed to Talon, right?
Yeah, I definitely think that Sombra is the complication in both hero balance and in the lore, and in a good way. So
she's the key. Sombra, I feel like is going to be a big character later on because she's going to be the character that basically knows it all of everyone, right? She knows all the dirty laundry, all the dirty secrets. So she's pretty crucial in that sense.
Yeah, the other thing that's interesting for me is kind of like going outside of the lore now is into more speculation, is that we really don't know what drives Sombra besides the thrill.
They haven't said it, but it's something strong because she's definitely very passionate and very I'm blanking out the word, purposeful with everything that she's doing, right? And the people that she contacts with. She definitely has a plan in motion, but we have no idea what that is.
Yeah, she also seems to get a bit lost in knowing everything about everyone else, that maybe she kind of lost her own identity. I don't know. Like, it could very well be true.
Could be too.
And also, it seems that in a lot of these lore moments that Katya Volskaya has been coming up a lot. Like, repeatedly. She's been coming up in different lore moments a lot, or in the videos or in the comments. Like, she seems pretty central to kind of how things are operating on the back end of connecting forces and weaponry.
Yeah, well, without going to the rabbit hole, we do know that she
Yeah.
is a big link between military human forces and military omnic forces, which was
Right.
the main conflict for a while, right? She was kind of almost playing for both sides, and she's hailed
Hmm.
as a defender in Russia, right? In Russia, she's the one who
Right.
made those big mechs that basically saved the country from the omnic invasion. But at the same time, we know that she's also been selling, or a lot of the technology that she got, I think, was
Is
from
Omnic Tech.
Omnic. Yes, Omnic Tech,
Yeah.
and she's in contact with them too. So, really complex
really
character there
weird.
too.
Yeah. Yeah, there's also one more speculation thing that I wanted to just throw out there. I'm not sure what my opinion is on this, but some people are saying that going back to the previous video that we just got, at the very end where you see Doomfist talking to someone, that the guy in the mask, or the Omnic, quote unquote, in the mask is actually Mauga. That they think that could be him in the very end of the last
Oh,
event that we got.
that'd be interesting. Although he looked like an actual Omnic, but he did have the frame and kind of like long hair. Although it looked like robot hair, it looked more like Predator to me. But I wouldn't discount it. I mean, that would be cool if that was Mauga.
We do
Having
know that he has 2 machine guns and a barrier of some sort.
Yeah, I was gonna say Mauga sounds like a full-fledged character. Like there's no way that the author
He
came
sounds
up
more
with
thought out than the other ones.
there's no way that the author for this story came up with all these descriptions of very specific looking things for the character
Right.
without maybe having previously seen it, or the people from Overwatch, Michael Chu telling her like this is Mauga. Because it almost from the story sounds like he's a tank. He has a shield. He has huge machine guns. He's kind of like the frontliner in the battle for this stuff. And clearly, Baptiste is the medic, always kind of like being behind him. It says that they work really well together, and both of them are kind of like an unstoppable duo. So it does sound like Mauga could be the next tank that we're getting.
Yeah, we don't know how far out that could be if he is a character, and all we know is that Echo is also in the pipeline somewhere. So we have 2 characters now that we can consider as
We have a
possible
ton
options.
of characters, honestly, from the last few cinematics and lore pieces. Like, it could be anyone. It could be like that crazy Omnic that we saw in the cinematic.
Yeah.
Gwen sounds like he could be a character coming on later on. He wasn't as full fledged, or none of his special abilities were kind of shown. But he was pretty much in the forefront there too. So they've been doing a good job just spreading out characters. And I wonder if at one
seems
point or
really
another
cool.
we'll get like a big drop. Like, check out this new 5 heroes, guys. Maybe
Oh
for
my
Overwatch
gosh,
2.
game balance, please. All right, guys. I think that's going to do it for us for the show this week. We got a couple of people to thank on our way out the door. We have our diamond sponsors over at patreon.com/OmnicLab supporting us at the highest level. Top Score Solutions, Refire, Bunk Plays, Meow, Meow Schmow, Shazir, Shepherd, Crimson Fail, Roger B, Christoplaya, and Tragic Zach, as well as brand new patrons this week, ING, Cthulhu, and Jake. Thank you guys so much for your patronage. Reminder, definitely check out, if you're at the same level, the coaching sessions, and let us know. I will also do a quick note. There is a brand new rollout in Discord that allows you to boost a server if you have Discord Nitro, and we are getting very close to our 10th boost. I think we're about five right now, and we've already got our first level of boosts. I think you only need 2, but if we can get to that 10th thing, we can get a little like cool icon on our Discord server, make it look a little bit more official. And the next step after 10 is 50, so we're trying to keep it maintained at that 10 thing. If we can get more there, please check out our Discord at discord.me/OmnicLab. You can find a link there on your browser, not in the Discord app itself. We also have 2 iTunes reviews that I will read quickly. We have one coming in from Specialty Shop. Oh man, our TV Specialty Shop. What a great username. From the United States, saying, listen to the show every week. I only show I found that includes console rundown. We're the minority, I know. Great hearing you guys on about the new patches. Thank you guys. Keep up the quality content. As well as Ruby from the United States saying, "Thank you for making this. I increased 2 ranks after listening to this." Wow. I love all the strategy in the Overwatch, and this podcast really makes me decide what to run and when. Great. People are learning all the time, and really, really exciting to hear back from you guys.
We're going to have to put that in the testimonials. You heard it here first. Listen to Omnic Lab, climb up 2 ranks immediately.
Yeah, well, I wish I could have said that early on. It took me a long time to climb up 2 ranks, let me tell you.
But thank you for the iTunes reviews, guys. We really appreciate them. It really is the fuel that keeps us going.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for that. You can do that for free. Log into iTunes, we'll read it out in the show if we can get time at the end. Look forward to having ML7 with us on the next week's show. Tune in on Saturday around 3-ish p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or Eastern Daylight Time, sorry. And last up, we also have a Twitch affiliates location on Twitch. So special thanks to Shazir for donating 1,000 bits on our live show this week, as well as Boyam, which I believe used to be Yo Boy Yam. Thanks for the 100 bits there. You guys can donate bits and subscribe to our show for some emotes there. We recently updated our one emote that we have. We'll see you guys soon. Remember, don't be a lab rat, be a scientist. We'll see you guys next week. And if you want to find us, all of the links are in the description. We'll see you then.
Thanks for coming, guys.
I have nothing more to teach you. The rest you must learn for yourself. Walk in harmony, my student.
I'm gonna send you guys over to my friend's
Clockabus,
chat.
thanks for the tier 1 sub.
Oh, thanks, Clock.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Go hang out with Boyam. Bye, guys.
All right, let me stop this here. Very nice. I thought this was gonna be a short episode, but I should have known that there's still a short episode with us talking about lore.
Like our lore, man. What can I say? All right, it will be uploaded in about 10 seconds.
All right, sounds good. Do we have artwork for this one or not yet?
I have not made it yet, no.
Okay,
I will probably have some stuff up from their website. I think they have all of the new graphics and stuff on the Blizzard website, so I should be able to.
They have some cool images for manga and stuff.
Yeah. I'll probably grab some lore bits and just throw that up there. If I get to it before you, I'll try to send you a message. But if you say it's done, just shoot me a message when you finish or whatever.
Sounds good.
And then I will also try to shoot you stuff for ML7's gig in advance. And then on Saturday, my time, which would be Friday, your time, I should have a good block of time to kind of look through and try to make some show notes for you. But it's kind of the same format, so you know.
Yeah. I'll be okay. I was gonna say though. So I think the earliest we're gonna put out this episode is tomorrow.
Okay.
What I was thinking is maybe if I get ML7 here, I'll just put it out for patrons, but put the release date to be like the 27th or
Wednesday.
something. So like, yeah, or Wednesday, 26 or 27.
Yeah, let's put it on 26. We'll put it on Wednesday.
Yeah.
That way it can kind of give people a good stretch of time, I'd say.
And then, yeah, well, that'll be good for this month. Yeah, sounds good.
All right, dude. Sounds good.
All right, man.
I need to go crash.
Have a good night.
You
Good
too.
episode.
I'll see you, man. Yeah, you too. Bye.
me my alerts are fucked. Oh shit, I'm not glad with the raid. What is up? How was the podcast? And how do I fix my alerts? Why are they down?
The place between life and death is where I feel most alive.
This is... I am sorry that my raid sound is not working.
Time to see if all those drills paid off.
All good with me.
Guys, welcome, welcome.
This is your
You guys gonna
champion.
talk about Baptiste?
Anyone want to take me out? Come find me.
This guy's mic is like hot, open mic.
I say we land here.
Alright, let's figure out why my alerts are not working.
Enough landing around. We drop it.
Alright, we're going here. The elite queue, I think, stopped working. Because it doesn't count anymore. You just join in. Alright, we've had some pretty good games. See if we can continue to have more.
Attention. Round one. Blood. Beginning ring countdown. Attention. The champion has been eliminated.
Good. Helmet here. Leather too.
Let's go.
Scanning the area.
I think people landed here, right? Okay. No, I guess nobody landed. Thought somebody landed here.
P2020 here.
I could use that.
I didn't want the sniper stock.